What's up, madlang people? May na pala. 1 year since med school, and 1 year of med school has already passed. And that's just 1 year more closer into getting that MD. Pero you know what, guys? I can't help but wonder, magiging mabuting practitioner ba ako in the future right after online med school? And you know what? Even after I graduate, how will I be able to pursue the path that I worked so hard for all of my life? Will I ever seek fulfillment as I traverse this path that I have paved for myself and for my future?
Uy, Gab! Okay ka lang ba? Almaan lang natin ha. Don't have an existential crisis just yet. Just ko, ang aga-aga pa. Pero, that's the reason why we're here. Join us this evening as we explore what lies beyond the frontiers of medical school.
That's right. Tonight we'll be spotlighting other, though equally fantastic careers in research, academe, and public health that an MD can pursue. Taking off and beyond the clinics, this is the Padayon podcast.
Yes, good evening, magandang gabi everyone sa lahat naman nanonood sa atin mula sa AMSA-UST and of course with our other audiences and of course to our esteemed guests. Of course, to my beautiful co-host. Hi, Mitch. Hi, Muriel. Kumusta kayo, guys?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello to our listeners, to our guest speakers.
Yes, of course. Grabe, kumusta naman kayo? I hope that you guys are all fine. And of course, sa lahat din na nakikinig sa atin all around the world ngayong gabi, welcome to the first ever episode of Life Beyond the Clinic's Padayon podcast. Woo! Once again, ako po ang isa po sa inyong mga host para sa gabi ito. Ako po si 𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙄𝙔 from 𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙄𝙔.
Hi, guys! So, I'm Michelle Bascara from 𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙄𝙔.
And I'm 𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙄𝙔 from 𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙄𝙔.
And we're so excited for what's in store for this evening. Especially, first time to guys. First time magsasama-sama ang 𝙄𝙗𝑚E-UST, 𝙄𝙗𝑟E-UST, and also 𝙄𝙗-SANBEDA together with our national team, 𝙄𝑚E national team, and collaborating in this special career talk.
Grabe, no? Pa-special tayo ngayon, podcast. But yes, folks. Yes, everyone. So this is going to be a 2-part special episode. So the first part of this podcast, in the first episode, we will be asking general questions to our special speakers on their learnings, experiences, and if they have any advice in their respective fields. We will then proceed with a second part, a game filled with insights we like to call Slapbook This or That.
Tama ka dyan, Muriel. And of course, I'm really excited. I hope that everyone is excited. At ang pinaka-aim ng ating podcast para sa gabing ito is to actually to tackle the question, ano ba yung mga different career opportunities na pwedeng puntahan ng isang medical student right after medical school aside from clinical practice. Di ba? Pag sinasabi natin na nagme-med school tayo, di ba, mga fellow hosts, di ba? Lagi tayo tatanong, ano ba magiging specialty mo? Tapos lagi masasagot natin, madalas clinical, di ba? Ikaw ba,
Yes.
Muriel, as a leap med student right now, ano ba for you yung gusto mong puntahan na field?
Well, nothing is set in stone pa po, Kuya Gabi, kasi I have a long way ahead of me. But recently po, parang na-curious po ako sa anesthesiology ngayon. Kayo po, Ate Mitch?
Ayan, so that's a question na upon entering med school, tatanungin na agad sa'yo. So after med school, anong balak mong gawing specialty? Ganyan, sa mag-specialize, ganyan. So nung time na yun, very concrete, very G pa ako sa IM, cardio, sige. Cardio, actually interested ako sa cardio, PAMED, and also ANES din. Pero since ngayon kung kailan na yun, nasa med school na ako, hindi na ako sure.
Ganun talaga yata.
Okay lang naman, I think, na hindi maging sure kasi alam nyo, kaya nga tayo may mga events kagaya na Life Beyond the Clinics for us to be able to know kung saan din tayo magpupunta na field. And speaking of Life Beyond the Clinics, ano ba yung event na to? So basically this event was spearheaded by 𝙄𝙗𝑚E years back dito sa AMSA. And basically, our Life Beyond the Clinic is talking about different fields of the practice of medicine aside from the clinical practices. Diba, usually endocrinology, usually gastro or cardio or other fields, diba? Pero when I was, before I went to med school, actually, naisip ko, baka pwede ako mag-Dr. Sudabario. So baka pwede ako mapunta ng research. Or one of the fields that I went through before, which is Academe. And actually, before noong 2019 pa, actually, dati career seminar to ng AMSA-UST through SCOME. And in 2019, ito yung first ever natin na collaboration with SCORE. Kaya na-feature natin ang research. At alam niyo ba guys, this is a very, very special year. Alam niyo ba kung bakit? Tanong niyo sa akin bakit?
Bakit?
So energy niyo Kaya naging very special tong year na to. Kasi kung last year nag-utilize tayo ng panel discussion, this year, we're still utilizing the panel discussion, but this time, multimedia na ang career seminar natin. So just for a background, last Monday, last Wednesday, and last Friday, nagkaroon tayo ng in-focus episodes ng ating mga speakers na maririnig natin ngayon. And today, we're going to hear them in a podcast. And alam ko na ayaw na natin itong patagalin. And to guide us in answering these, of course, syempre, gustong-gusto na natin i-welcome ang ating mga esteemed na guests para sa gabing ito. Take it away, Muriel.
That's right. So our first guest is a proud Damasian who is currently a clinical research scholar in Harvard Medical School. She's also the co-founder of the 𝙄𝙉𝙄𝙉𝙄𝙔 Foundation. Joining us all the way from California, USA, live with us today, we have Dr. Maria Cassandra and 𝙄𝙉𝙄𝙉𝙄𝙔. Hi there, Doc Cass.
Hi, Doctor.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning po.
Good morning po. Of course, magandang gabi or technically magandang umaga po sa inyo, Dr. Maria Cassandra and 𝙄𝙉𝙄𝙗, who will be representing research for tonight. Of course, syempre hindi pa uhuli yung next natin na field, which is Academe. Let us all welcome ang chair ng Philippine Board of Surgical Oncology and one of our assistant professors, I think very, very familiar na sa atin to na mga taga-UST, of course, no? And assistant professor natin siya sa surgery, of course, and sa physiology din, and a member of the curriculum committee of UST Faculty of Medicine and Surgery. Of course, everyone, let us welcome one of our professors in UST, Dr. 𝙄𝙉𝙄𝙗, MD, MH. Good evening po, Doc.
Good evening, Doc.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening po.
Good evening. Magandang gabi.
Magandang gabi talaga. So last but never the least, let me introduce to you our speaker for public health. She is a physician instructor in San Beda University College of Medicine. So, yung mga taga-Bedans dyan, for sure, na-inspire na kayo sa mga kwento niya. For sure. Naging prof din namin siya sa practice of medicine. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you Dr. Meredith De Leon Afwang. Hi, Doc Afwang.
Eddie, magandang gabi. Nice to be here with you.
It's a pleasure po, Doc. Good evening po.
Grabe guys, sobrang bigatin ng mga speakers natin, mga panelists natin this year. And of course, gaya na sinabi ko kanina that this is a year of first. Of course, I'd like to recognize ang mga tao na naging part ng project na to who made this event possible. Of course, aside from SCOME and SCORE, of course, syempre welcome na welcome din ang Sama San Beda. Palakpakan naman natin ang Sama San Beda for helping us out in this event. Of course, represented by Ate Mitch. Ate Mitch.
Hello sa mga Bedans dyan. Kaway-kaway, shout out sa inyo.
Right, shout out sa inyong lahat, of course. I know na ayaw na natin patagalin yung event natin. And this event actually will focus on 2 episodes, gaya ng sinabi ni Muriel kanina. So without further ado, let's now begin with episode 1, which is our panel discussion. So for this particular part, we will be asking our panelists of different questions that our students may have asked along the way in their journey in med school. So we will answer questions about different career moves or different career choices and different experiences from our panelists. Are you guys excited? Excited na ba kayo, guys?
Definitely. Let's get
And
this show
sana
on.
din, excited na rin ang ating mga doctors. Without further ado, let's begin our discussion. Okay, so I will be delivering the first question. So ang tanong po natin sa unang part na to is to tell us about your career and your field of practice at bakit po ninyo ito pinursue. So I think we can begin with Dr. Coronel. Dr. Coronel, let's start with you, then Dr. Alcid, then Dr. Afuang po. Bakit po kayo nagpunta na research, academe, or ng public health? And yeah, so what is it about your field of practice? Let's start with Dr. Coronel.
Hi, nice for having me, guys. Actually, like my decision to become like a physician scientist always held it's been there since like the beginning. I knew I wanted from a young age that I wanted to better the world in like very concrete, data-driven ways. I've always been kind of like analytical that way since I was a kid. So I guess like being in a position to help patients via direct medical care, as well as pursue research that could potentially define the mechanism or I guess like management of those patients' diseases is something that I always looked forward to. So of course, after finishing medical school, I wanted to kind of solidify those skills, those technical skills that I developed while I was at UCLA. As my undergrad, as well as, of course, UST during medical school. And I just wanted to make sure that my skills were, how do I say this, like up to date and capable, I guess, of like pursuing those types of fields and like bettering the field of medicine that way. So, sorry, long-winded, but hey, clinical research, hey.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Coronel. What about you, Dr. Alcid? Why Academe? Hello? Is Dr. Alcid here? Hello? Okay, so kung wala pa si Dr. Alcid, maybe we can go to Dr. Afuang po. Dr. Afuang, what about you po? Why public health?
Yeah. I have to go back memory lane, but I'll have to make this short. In 1991, I decided to practice my pediatric profession in Puerto Princesa City, where I also had my rural health practice program. And after 2 years, in 1993, I was invited to join public health, in the provincial health office, and that is where this all began. So I occupied a public health position, Provincial Health Officer 1 in the Provincial Health Office of Palawan. And since then, I had a long history, if I may say, and experience in public health, from being a Department of Health representative and then towards also joining public health in terms of international organizations involvement, UNICEF and UNFPA, where we cater to maternal health and neonatal program. And currently, I'm also still in public health, this time in health emergency management.
All right, thank you po, Doc. Doc Alcid, let's go back to you po.
Okay, so when I finished med school, I did not apply in the Academe immediately. So I wanted to pursue a career that I really want, which is the field of oncology. So I'm a surgical oncologist. So you can just imagine the work of a surgeon dealing with cancer patients almost every day. So there entails a lot of, emotions. So it's a very emotional career, challenging career as a surgical oncologist. So after performing hundreds of operations and years of surgical practice, I acquired a strong sense of respect to surgery while fully understanding the demands and sacrifices of being a surgeon along the way. So stepping inside the OR, performing surgical operations, and knowing a difference that can be made with the use of our hands gives life and light to my passion as a doctor, as a surgical oncologist. So I can't imagine doing something else that can be more challenging and rewarding other than this. So my passion for surgery has grown parallel with my skills and experience. So each time I make the first cut, I am reminded that surgery is a part of the process of someone's healing and a big part of their journey towards a better life. So, with the very stressful field that I'm in, I'm a surgical oncologist. There's teaching in the academy eventually um, is one way of decompressing. So it's just like it's a passion for me to also teach younger colleagues or young students to become surgeons also in the future.
I see. Thank you so much, Docs, for sharing that. Napaka-inspiring po na sinabi nyo. And I agree with that po. No? Based on your sharing, parang na-realize ko po, it's about understanding yourself first, finding the values that you want to, value, what do you hold meaningful to yourself, and then saka nyo po parang eventually things will fall into place when basta you have yourself sure no of it. So
Yeah,
thank you very much, Docs,
just
for
to
the
add,
share.
no, it's really difficult to enter into academe immediately after your graduation or you finish med school, because basically when you entered med school, your primary purpose is, to achieve whatever you want regarding specialty and everything. You want to become cardiologist, internist, or any field. The academe will come after you have, I mean, you have achieved your specialty that you want.
Thank you for that, Doc. And if I may just recap also to what Doc Coronel said, um, for you, Doc, you knew like at the beginning that this was something that you want for that you want to pursue. And I find that really inspiring that you were also able to identify that maybe at a young age and then pursuing it right now. And for Doc Afwan, you have had a lot of experience also with public health, and that really honed po siguro po na yung pagka-passion nyo rin po sa ginagawa nyo. So thank you very much po for sharing that. We can proceed with our next question, Ate Mitch.
I agree with that. Actually, majority theory ay na nga ako. Parang syempre, parang at some point, very draining habang nasa med school. Pero hearing these kinds of words, no, from people na ang dami nang na-achieve talaga, like sobrang nagsa-spark, parang in an instant, ay parang gusto ko na mag-aral ulit. Ay parang gusto ko kabsaduhin agad yung mga kailangan ko aralin sa PJ. Charot. Anyways, so actually, leading to our next question, no. So, do you have any anecdotes or like experiences, challenging experiences while in your field that you would like to share? The first word na naisip nyo ay ma-inspire para to actually go forward, go through the path that you have taken as well.
Any specific moments that you would like to share with our audience?
If you will allow, I could begin.
Sure,
The
go ahead.
narratives. Yes. First of all, I have to start with how I decided to be a physician. Actually, I wanted to be a lawyer. I've seen my father reading a lot of books, law books, and I had fun reading them. But when I was in first year pre-med, BS Psychology in UP Diliman, I had a very important decision to make, and that is to accept Jesus Christ into my life. And that is where the Lord pointed out to me that I could be of really good service as a physician. And miracles happened one after another. I was able to enter UP College of Medicine. I know my parents could not afford other schools rather than UP, and God allowed me to enter that field. And God also allowed me to enter my first love in medicine, that is my love for children, pediatrics. And I was able to decide on this because I know how important it is to nurture children at that particular age and to see them healthy. And although I have a lot of preventive promotive aspects as being a pediatrician, it also gives me a lot of inspiration to now that I am practicing as a public health practitioner, because we have a lot of the majority of population to serve. I've spent a lot of time in the province of Palawan, where I saw a lot of commitment volunteerism in the people that I was able to work with. And I have to share my anecdote with barangay health workers. Their lives are very simple, and yet, even without stipend, they are able to really work in their community. That's why when one of the conventions that I spearheaded in Palawan during that time was Bayani Hanggang Wakas, which is um, when you abbreviate it, it's BHW, Bayani Hanggang Wakas Convention, where I paid honor, and we also appreciated the work of our barangay health workers. During my time also, I had experience with Dr. Sudabarrios. During that time, I entered Department of Health. It was the time where Secretary Flavier, the founder of the Doctors of the Barrios program, was the DOH secretary back then. So you would know the experiences of Doctors of the Barrios being away from their families and serving in a far remote place. It's actually more of isolated because Palawan is um, basically an island province with island municipalities and even island barangays. And despite the difficulties, even despite their mayors not supporting them, but they stayed, no, they stayed. Ang joke nga namin para magstay ka sa lugar na yon is to marry a local, no? So meron kami doon na there's a doctor to the barrio. I think he will forgive me if I mention his name because it's a very good example of a doctor to the barrio, no? Sa Linapakan, no? Ang aming doctor to the barrio sa Linapakan, he married his nurse, no, in the RHU, and now they are serving in Coron kasi Linapakan is way remote. Oo, so that's one, and up to now he is still there serving with of course with already a family. Another thing that there are also physicians specialists that because I'm a pediatrician, I started working with Dr. Socrates. He was the provincial health officer at that time. Okay, so I have a team composed of surgeons, internists, OB, gynecologists, and myself as a pediatrician. So he wanted us to upgrade the services in the provincial hospital in Palawan. So we call ourselves KABSAT, no, KABSAT team. And you will also notice the compassion, the love for service of these doctors. Of course, their love of nature, because some of them would love scuba diving also, the surgeon in Tubataha. No, that's the main reason he wanted to really practice in Puerto Princesa, because those are the perks of also practicing in a rural setting. And also when we go on field, I have so many stories, I'm sorry, but this could be the last. When I go on field and you visit rural health units or health centers, and sometimes aabutan ka ng lunch, 'di ba? And they will generously magkakatay sila ng native na manok, and native na manok is very good for tinola, no?
Wow.
So you have the that mga bonuses, no, when you go. And of course, just being on the field, no, riding a boat at night, no, tapos staring at the starry night during that time, and even yung nababalahura kami, I don't know if na-stranded kami, no, yung sasakyan namin, but we still manage, because when you see the people that you serve, your heart is warmed with so much love and gratitude also from them, and the more that you become inspired to be able to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Who wants to go next po? Anecdotes. Thank you po, Dr. Aswa.
I guess I can go.
Alright po.
it's actually really heartwarming. Like in the morning, it's such a heartwarming thing to like wake up to that, you know. I guess like mine's not so heartwarming, but I guess like mine is more I guess like not pleasantly strategic, but also pleasantly surprising. So my little background, I guess, on me is like I actually completed my undergrad studies in economics. I come from a background of business. And so my background is actually in business economics as well as psychobiology. I graduated my psychobiology degree at UCLA, University of California in Los Angeles. And there I worked for UCLA's clinical epidemiology department, as well as its clinical translational science institute. So I started there, I guess, like, because I knew that, like I said earlier, I knew that research played like a very critical role in like not only like the background and backbone of medicine, but also in its furtherance. So I wanted to take part, and I was very blessed to have did my undergrad studies at UCLA, which is a very research-oriented, research-encouraging school. And when I went to medical school at UST, I found that looking for mentorship in the field of research, as well as the structural support to pursue research at the time, was not necessarily the same. The scaffolding of the research department, I guess, was not yet there. So I wanted to actively pursue research in a way that I could outside of our mandatory thesis. And so I actually found that group during my first year of medical school with AMSA. And that's actually how I became involved with AMSA in the first place. I had a friend, actually a couple of friends in Section A, and they invited me. They're like, hey, like, we have this like medical education committee. Like we do a lot of things, but like, I think you'd be really interested in it. And I said, okay, is there food? And they're like, yeah, there's food. And so I was like, okay, you had me at food. And so like, I joined, and during that year, I ended up actually, they invited me to pursue remote research. Our team was actually full of purely medical students, and from UP, from LaSalle, and we, of course, me representing UST, and we submitted our research for AMSA. And at the time, I believe it was 2015, was in Singapore. And at first I was like really nervous because it's like, oh my gosh, it's big shot, Singapore, you know? But our team did really great. We presented our poster. We made it like, I think, to like the top 10. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. We made it to the top 10, like, and I'm just a first year medical student, you know? So that really kind of like propelled me to like pursue more. And so I learned that remote work is actually totally doable in this day and age, this technology. Remote work is totally doable. And while a lot of my research at UCLA was in person, a lot of my research in the Philippines became remote. Which ended up becoming very good for me, because not only did I become very well adept at technology and like remote work prior to COVID, by the way, this is all prior to COVID. It ended up me doing projects with internationally with like medical students from all over the world. I ended up doing EMC. I also did very well at NMSC. I ended up doing like first runner-up or second place during my first NMNC. I did it again the year after, to the point where like I just was on this like roll of like research, and like just doing data gathering just made a lot of sense with my analytical background coming from business and economics, and like just propelled me from there. So I met a lot of beautiful people inside and out, you know, who shared this love of, I guess, like data gathering and putting it into like putting it into words that could easily be communicated across the world. And I I've been very blessed. Been very blessed to travel, given the research opportunities that I've had. I've been to Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Korea, most recently Korea, but also across Europe. So if anyone is really interested in research and they haven't been, I guess, encouraged just by the pure, warm-heartedness that research gives, they can also be, I guess, encouraged for travel exchange and just travel in general.
Oh, may I add, Doc? Actually, just so you know, we are also going to have AMSA, and it's going to be finally face-to-face in South Korea. So, yeah, it's so exciting because as Corey, we're also trying to find the research groups who are willing to participate, and hopefully, we're able to participate for this year's AMSA. So,
Oh yeah, and let me know if you need some advisor. I am actually a research advisor for the young Filipino Americans in medicine here in the States. So yes, I would love to take an advisory role for you guys.
We would love that. Thank you so much, Doc.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Doc 𝙄𝙉𝙁𝙄𝙔?
Doc Alcid.
Well, I'm going to talk as an academician. No? Because you have to remember, we are the faculty members of UST. Basically, majority of them are specialists. I don't know if you noticed, Gab, and seldom that you see teachers or faculty members of the UST FMS who are not specialists. So we are basically, I'm an academic surgeon, meaning I am affiliated with the Academe and also a clinical surgeon. So I think the fun part of being an academician is there's a lot, no? Like you are part of the process. You are helping students achieve their dreams of becoming a doctor. So you are basically guiding them, becoming a physician. So there's a lot of fun things as an academician or as a teacher. I think Cass here is one of my students.
Actually, I was.
So you can see now, Cass is a very successful researcher. He was one of my students in physiology, right, Cass?
Yeah.
This is like a mini reunion.
Yeah, actually, he was my facilitator for my subsec.
Yeah, so I remember. And Cass here is making me proud, no, listening to her. And I think I was, in a way, part of her success, right, Cass? So, that's the fun part, no, when you see now your graduates, when you see your past students doing very well in their chosen fields, this is the most rewarding, fulfilling part of being a facilitator, being a teacher. So this is basically the fun part of it. The challenge is, as an academician, is how will you now inspire your students? I've always believed that everyone can teach. No? Lahat naman tayo pwede magturo. But not everyone knows how to teach. And a good teacher actually inspires his or her students. So I think that's basically what a teacher would do now. It's something that's rooted in that particular faculty. There's passion being a teacher. Because when you teach, it entails a lot of commitment, dedication, and to be effective in your field, you have to be really doing something good for your students. You have to remember that they will look up to you as a facilitator. They see you as their parang inspiration to do better. They are motivated to become good students and eventually becoming a good physician. So I get a lot of in your terms, DMs, no, direct messages. Until now, no, even in the recent board exam we're in, I was so proud because 6 of the top 10 students were my students in physiology and surgery. And they messaged me, thanking me, being their inspiration. These are very rewarding as an academician. So I think this is the fun part, and the challenge really is how to inspire them. There are a lot of anecdotes, experiences that I can share, but baka maubos yung oras natin. But basically, sinabi ko na yung mga uh, fun and challenging parts of being academician. And I think a concrete example here is Cass, no, doing very well in research.
Oh,
Thanks,
Thank you,
Doc.
Cass, for making us proud.
Well said po, Doc. Thank you very
Yeah.
much for that. So, we can thank you for sharing those experiences. Grabe, nakaka-inspire po bawat isa sa sinabi nyo. Now, let's proceed, shall we, to the next question?
Yes.
So, this
Oh.
next question, if you have one thing that you wish you knew before entering this field, what would it be? Rather, do you have any tips po na parang, oh, I kind of wish I knew this so that when I got into this field, I would have an easier time, something like that. So do you have like a one tip for the students?
parang mga, I should have known. Mga ganun.
Yeah, I should have known.
What's that one thing? Siguro let's go first with, sige, si Doc Cass naman. Doc Cass, what's that one thing that you wish you knew before entering your field of research?
The one thing I would, I guess, say that I wish I knew when I was younger to enter medicine was the different paths that you could take to get to medicine. When I was younger, I thought, of course, I was raised in the United States. And so I was thinking, oh, I have to do undergrad. I have to do, and then I'm going to do medicine in the States. That's exactly what's going to happen. And I was like very, very set on like, this is my plan and this is like what's going to happen. I wish when I was younger, I knew to be more flexible as to like the challenges and the curveballs that life kind of like throws at us. And like, of course, I was pleasantly surprised like that, of course, my career took me to the Philippines to pursue medicine at UST. But then, of course, brought me back to the United States. So I wish, I guess, when I was younger, someone would told me like, it's not a direct path. It would provide more encouragement and to tell everyone that, like, I guess, like, even at a young age, like mental health is very important. And to keep yourself not just encouraged and motivated on why you wanted to do this, because like that is also very important, but also I guess like to not feel discouraged also when your life takes you to a different path and a different timeline that you would otherwise have thought that you would have been in. So I would say that, and also I guess to seek out mentorship very early. It's one thing to go about this road by yourself. If you are very self-motivated, that's amazing. Keep doing that. But also like it's a completely different ball game when you have a mentor to one, not only just like to take an interest in like what you would be as like a developing student, as a developing clinician, as a developing researcher or academic, or just in any field of and facet that medicine will bring you, but just to also to have someone, you know, it's so important to just have someone. Yeah. And then, of course, as I like to say in every one of my teams for research is teamwork makes the dream work. Honestly, like not only do you need a mentor, like reach out to your peers. I would not have been able to do half of the research that I've been able to do without my teammates. And like, especially like with remote work, it's totally possible. So teamwork makes the dream work.
I love how you mentioned about being aware of the different paths as well. That's why I think we also had a project before about the different fields that we can also do before going to med school, such as doing masters in public health or pursuing some jobs as well. Speaking of public health, let's hear from Dr. Akwang. What was the thing that you wish you knew before you entered yun pong field po ninyo?
Yeah, I have to reflect on that question on what I should have known before entering this field. But I think it's just a matter of being open to all the options that you have, especially during your when you're in your medical school, in the medical school, and just being a student. I wanted to really be, because of my background in BS psychology, I was considering psychiatry at the time as a specialty. And because of my love for children, I went into pediatrics. But then I'm also very much aware of the need for more doctors in the rural areas, and that kept me also focused on what I should also be considering. That's the reason why even as a pediatrician, I went to Puerto Princesa City, Palawan, to really fill up the gap, because I see the need for more doctors in rural areas. And I was, in a way, I could say I was prepared, because I was also involved in an organization, the Agape Rural Program, and I was still in my med school. And yes, Dr. Cassandra, it's very, very important to have a mentor. And this mentor of mine is also my discipler at the same time. And the love also for rural practice also inspired me. Her love for rural practice also inspired me. And that is, I think, and of course, when I was already in the rural practice, having gotten the position in public health, no, where I monitor public health programs, and I came in the eve of devolution. So I was advocating to local chief executives the importance of public health programs, and this is when I also took my master's in public health, and it helped a lot, no, to equip me more on this field that I have chosen. And also, there are a lot also of capability building trainings that I have acquired during my days in the Department of Health. Even up to now, they would see to it that the personnel, especially our doctors, even our doctors to the barrios during their time, are equipped. Also, are being equipped. They would go to Manila to also do some trainings in relation also to their practice. Actually, there was a time na nasa family medicine sila, no? So that after their stint in the Doctor to the Barrios program, they would go in as a family medicine practitioner, no? Earning also specialty. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much po, Dr. Afang. That was so inspiring. And of course, Academe naman po, Dr. Alcid, what was the one thing that you wish you knew before entering the field of academe?
Well, I didn't know that the students, the landscape when we were students is now very different now. No? Kami at that time, we're just, we're not complaining. We're just going to follow whatever the teacher will tell us. When I became a teacher, iba na pala. So yung mga estudyante are like, bakit ganito? Bakit ganyan? It's, parang, it's totally different. They call it, I don't know, you're millennials or Gen Z. So parang, if I knew na ganyan na pala mga estudyante dati, joke lang. But still, parang, hindi naman siya parang pinagsisihan, but I think I feel nga younger when I get to mingle with you guys now. No? Parang I feel younger, parang I meet you in the middle, no? Parang nakikiin, yes, tama. That's correct. But before, there's really the stereotyping for faculty members na dapat kami ang masusunod, di ba? Ganun yun eh. Parang whatever we tell you, sundin nyo. Yung mga students, susunod lang siya. So the stereotyping, the judgment. So I have to take down some barriers, no? Taking down barriers that will define a typical teacher for that matter. So parang sometimes you have to pave your own road and become a trailblazer. So paano mo ba gagawan ng paraan yung mga you are not expecting when you entered in the academe? So I became in a way trailblazer, no? I listened to the students, I became more flexible, parang wala na kasing mga terror teachers, so to speak, no? Hindi na uso ngayon yan eh. Parang I realize students will learn more when you're not parang imposing on something. No? You give ample time for them to study, you give time for them to learn, being approachable. So parang nagbago na yung landscape when I was a student now, and now I'm a teacher. So ibang-iba na. But it's still fun. For me kasi learning is always and should always be a fun. It should always be something that you share with your students na happy kayo together learning. So, yun lang sa akin. So, ang aking na-realize when I
Just
entered
to
Academe.
Yes, thank you so much po, Dr. Alcid. And actually, we appreciate so much of what the three of you have mentioned with Dr. Cass mentioning about being open to the different paths of the different practice or seeking mentorship as early as you can. Dr. Afwang, of course, mentioning about also being open to different opportunities and also being open to the different callings. No? And then Dr. Alcid also mentioning about the mentorship. Sobrang inspiring siya for us all. Ma-share ko din lang po, no, I also went to the field of research before. I was a researcher before, and then I went to the Academe before med school, and then public health as well. So hearing these three, parang nababalidate po na tama nga na tama nga na nag-med school, and we need to be inspired more by people like all of you po to for us to be able to succeed and for us to be able also to make that change in the world. Tama ba, guys?
I agree po. Super. Ay, gusto ko nga po, Kuya Gab, parang kayo, actually, if I may, Kuya Gab, ginagawa niyo po as mentor and as mentee na rin po ginagawa niyo And I would like to say thank you nga po to our speakers who mentioned po that having a mentor is also important. Kasi as a student, I really also appreciate it to have someone to consult to or maybe a older person or maybe someone who has more experience para And I also gusto ko po yung sinabi ni Doc Alcid na you're also learning from your students po. So that's a very, very nice, I believe po, professors or maybe anyone who is a mentor should also be open to learnings from their students po. Thank you po.
Agree.
Yun. Actually, gusto ko, parang gusto ko tuloy gawin lahat ng ginagawa nila. Sobrang nakaka-inspire naman kasi talaga, di ba? In the field of research, parang mag-add, gusto mong to make the world of medicine a better place. And also in the public health, like open opportunities as long as nandyan, as long as your heart is to serve the people, God's people. And also being an instructor. Grabe, hands down din. Kasi syempre, alam niyo naman kung paano pasabog minsan yung mga estudyante. Thank you for the patience. Thank you talaga. And thank you sobrang sa akin as a med student. Sobrang na-appreciate ko pag approachable yung mga prof. Like, di ko nararamdaman na sobrang layo. Sobrang na-appreciate ko pag minimit kami ng mga profs namin. So, sobrang masarap mag-aral kapag ramdam mo gusto din magturo ng mga nagtuturo.
Sure, it's finding a community din po talaga.
Oo,
to
diba?
Share learnings.
Yeah, and of course, yung tatlong speakers natin, of course, are very, very well din sa kanila din mga shinare din sa atin. Which brings us actually to one of our last questions na for episode 1. So actually, di ba kanina they have mentioned about the things that they wish they knew before they entered. And kanina din natanong din natin sila what were the tips that they can share to interested students on how to seek opportunities. Kaya nasabi about mentorship and all. So I think this is our last general question for this first episode. So how do you think people perceive your career, or may mga stereotypes po ba sa pagiging professor, pagiging doctor to the bar, or public health professional, public health physician or researcher? And ano po yung sa tingin ninyo pinakamalaking impact, or what do you think is the largest impact that you have done with other people's lives because of the career that you are in? So, So again, yung question po natin is, how do you think people perceive your career, and how do you think your career impacts the life of other people? Sige, let's go first with Dr. Alcid for this. Doc?
How do they perceive? Well, being an academician is more than it's like it's more of humbling yourself in being connected with your students, no? To share a life-changing transformation for them and improving also the quality of teaching to your students will which eventually will lead to a great impact, no, on how they do their they study. So basically, you have to also to take care of your students in every step of their journey. So as an academician, sometimes you will get, uh, as I said kanina, pinaka-rewarding really is when you are appreciated by your students that you did something good to them. You inspired them to become better, you motivated them. So kasi ngayon, parang I can speak of the members of the faculty of UST. Majority of them really are practicing and teaching as well. So pag nasabi namin that we are teaching also at the same time practicing, we will get comments like, ang sipag mo naman. Parang you combine both practice and teaching because when you want to go into academe, one will really suffer in a way, no? You have to compromise as well because if you want to pursue teaching or in the academe, you have to have commitment. It will really eat up your time. And if you don't have any commitment, then you're doing parang injustice to your students. Because basically, when you commit to something, like you want to go to academe, then you will spend most of your time teaching as well. And if you want to go into practice, of course, you want to focus depending on what you really want in your career. It's also a different thing. So, pag sinasabi namin, they perceive it as parang napakasipag mo naman, pinagsasabi mo pa rin. So, that's usually the comment that I get sometimes when I tell them that I'm also part of the academy. No? So, one really you have to really weigh, no? Kung saan ka ba talaga. Sometimes kasi it's really difficult to navigate both as an academician and as a clinician.
Thank you, Doc Alcid. That was very inspiring. What about, let's go to Dr. Akwang naman po. Dr. Akwang?
I would answer that question in a negative at saka yung positive perception, no? So, siguro I'll start with the positive perception. When you are into public health, basically, it spelled out as service, no? So, in a community, you are there to empower the people. There are a lot of sacrifices that you would have to, to do, and that is leading in a clinician's world, no? And sometimes mas maririnig mo dun sa mga rural health physicians natin that they would only get to handle ubo, sipon, no, the usual kind of thing. But however, they are not just clinician, they're not just there to manage consultations, but they're there to improve a system, no? So systems development, so they are managers in their own rural health unit, they advocate their programs, and whether it's in the urban or in the rural, ganun talaga, no? You will have to really advocate for the to get the public health programs prioritized, no? Kasi hindi yan hindi yan masyadong big, it's not a big card, no? So it's empowerment, empowering the community people to be able to really know what they want and get what they want. Okay. On the downside, ito may pagka-stereotyping, no? When you are a public health practitioner, walang pera dyan, no? It's not lucrative, no? Diba? There was also before na ibabayad lang sa'yo itlog, gulay, di ba? But in a way, it is right, no? Kasi wala naman din talaga, no? Wala rin talagang, especially in the government where you don't have, no, yung yung ganun kalaking sweldo, no, or salary to begin with. Pero nag-standardize na tayo ngayon, no? Humahabol na yung salary ng doctors dun sa private, no, sa private counterparts nila. And of course, yung security of tenure, you are naman you can give naman your family good living naman, no, yung standard of living. And marami ring perks kasi you get to travel a lot. Public health is very fun. You get to meet different types of people. You also get to help and inspire them in a way. And at the same time, may mga medical missions where you get invited, and there are also some invitations to speak, no, and to share your expertise in public health. So very fulfilling siya in the end, and at the same time exciting.
Yes, thank you so much, Doc. Before po we go to Doc Cass, I just want to, ayoko lang matanggal sa isip ko yung sinabi ni Dr. Afon. Sobrang naalala ko to nung when I was still doing the public health. Tama po kayo dyan, Doc, grabe. Nung dati when I was a speaker in our local hospitals in Pangasinan, and when I was speaking on how to use, yung over-the-counter medication sa atin pong mga kababayan sa mga baryo, actually, ang pinaka-fulfilling po dun sa sinabi ninyo kanina is the people get a sense of ownership of their health. I think yun din yung heart ng Academe kanina is when you empower other people to take charge of their destiny, to take charge of how they control their health. And I think yun yung impact natin as public health practitioners, yun yung maganda na calling natin. Kasi pag nakita mo na nagbago yung buhay nila because of what you taught them, or what you gave them, or the service that you give. Dati po, naalala ko po, may nagbigay pa po sa akin ng fruit basket na sa nagsispeaker. Tama po kayo doon, yun yung mga nakakamiss na mga opportunities. Dati po may nagbibigay sa akin ng mga papaya, mga ani po nila. dahil po sa sobrang pagmamahal din po nila sa mga speakers sa appreciation. And I think yun yung pinakamasaya na part nung pagiging teacher at pagiging part din po ng public health. Now, I'm curious to hear about research. What do you think naman po, Doc Cass, is how do you think people perceive your career? And what is your impact in their lives?
Those are very different questions, actually, since my particular career has various different facets. Of course, I have research on one side, which is very defining, of course, for my career. But of course, I also partake in sports medicine. I also partake in philanthropy too. Earlier mentioned, I have started with my family and my sister a nonprofit organization, 501c3, which actually also helps with a lot of indigenous communities, also in the Philippines. So a lot of these things kind of culminate together. So when people perceive my career, and when I tell them about my job, I'd have to ask first, which part of my job? What part of my life? I actually enjoy the fact that my life is not entirely defined on one thing, and that I can explore various parts of my identity, I guess, and my interests in different ways. So, but in specific for the field of research, I hear a lot about ang hirap naman yan, or ang galing mo nag-research ka, and you're just oh yeah, I guess. So I feel like the barrier to research is defined by how hard and how difficult a lot of people perceive research to be. But I always try to encourage people who are skeptical about pursuing research that always just starts as a question and as simple as a simple curiosity. One of my favorite research projects actually started off with me reading an article about somebody who ate too much boba, milk tea, the pearls.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I wonder what other things people eat, intentionally. And so it actually led to a very interesting study that I have on intentional ingestion on foreign body. And I ended up presenting that in not only Las Vegas, but I did an updated research on that's the one that I presented in Korea just last week with my team. So I always try to tell people that research is not always difficult. It always starts from a very simple question, and we'll see from there, you know? In regards to, I guess, like how research has changed, like, I guess not only my career, but of course, like the field of medicine, we have to remind ourselves that like the high quality like medical care that we receive and enjoy today is built upon years, decades of efforts by physicians, physician scientists, PhDs, nurses, and other medical professionals, you know? So like everything that we enjoy in the field of medicine and will enjoy in the future of medicine is because people took the time to investigate the causes and the potential treatments for various diseases, right? So it's because of these efforts that like once, you know, life-threatening diseases actually kind of like are in the past. Like, so I would say that research, of course, like I said earlier, plays a very critical role in the backbone of medicine and also its furtherance and development.
Well said po, Doc. I agree po. We have this thing, I recall the recent topic of ours, evidence-based medicine. So really, research is the backbone of medicine. Okay. So, shall we...
Ayan. So, thank you very much, Docs, for those insights. Grabe. Sobrang dami ang take home. Super. Parang wala pa nga tayong isang oras. Like, ang dami ko na talagang biglang nag-widen yung horizon, biglang nag-broaden yung mga parang sisimpleng nasa thoughts ko lang dati. So, parang ang dami ko pala dapat malaman. And for sure, thank you, doctors, for sharing your experiences. I'm sure our listeners are very excited to hear more from you. Yeah, so I'm afraid that that's all the time that we have today. And so here ends the first segment of the Padayon Life Beyond the Clinics podcast. So tune in tomorrow for the second part where we play an exciting game with our guest speakers as we get to know more about their experiences and sharing. Bye! Padayon!
Padayon!